So I was listening to Digi's lecture on Maddox, and there was this one line in there that really, really struck a chord with me, and it made me worry a bit about myself, pertaining to the ability of becoming a lolcow, or maybe the idea that I don't know as much as I think I know. I mean, I've already figured that aspect out far before I heard this lecture, but there was this line, and it kept being brought up, but he talked about how Maddox read a book on social cues, and it made him believe that he just knew everything about being social, and he would go out and sort of do those things and then have them work, and then it made him just believe he was a genius at being a social person, and that struck a chord with me on so many levels, because I am someone who would parade around acting like I was a genius about being social for quite a while, and a lot of the time that just proved to be outright wrong. Like, there were feelings that were too complex to connect with, or situations where I didn't know how to act, but I would always keep up this tone and this idea of being someone who knew these things, who knew how the sociability worked. But I think what brought that ego on me was just that I spent so long not knowing those things, and when I finally figured them out from picking them up off of other people, from really thinking about how other people do things, and getting advice in other places, from having that advice and from analyzing those things, I started copying them until they became just a natural part of how I acted. And because I did that, I started to feel like I was a genius for knowing these things, even though a lot of those things were outright obvious. Like, people know how to do social cues, most people do. I didn't, because either I have autism, or, you know, I was raised homeschooled until I was like fucking 12, and when in that entire time of being homeschooled, I was never told how to act. I was never told how to, you know, be around other human beings, because my parents never wanted to talk to me. They didn't care. They were always in bad emotional states, and so I didn't get very much time spent with me when I was little, and so I did not know how to pick up on social cues, because the only fucking people that I ever interacted with never told me. And my dad has actually described a similar thing. When he was younger, he said, "Oh yeah, you know, I read this book, how to influence people, or like how to be more likable and influence people." It's a book from the fucking 30s. And he said, "Oh yeah, that book changed my life," or whatever, because he did not know how to be social either, I suppose. And like, he always describes it as if like he had autism. Like, he literally says, "Oh yeah, you know, I think I had autism, but I overcome it," or whatever. But like, I still see him messing up socially in a lot of cases, and he is hugely arrogant about the idea that he knows all of these things. So I think I went down a similar path for a while. It's very strange, like the correlation between both me and him and Maddox. The correlation is quite large. So, self-awareness about this, as long as I'm self-aware, I can deal with it, you know. I figured this out, that I wasn't a genius about these things as I thought I was a while ago, but hearing this thing about Maddox just made me extra weary of sounding too self-aggrandizing when it comes to these things.
Have you ever felt that way?
I mean, like,
I have.
when it comes to understanding people, like, I am very emotional about people. I do care quite a lot. It's just that finding the words to put those thoughts into, into action is very hard. It's very hard for me to try and put those emotions into words for people, which is ironic because all I ever do is put things into words, right? I do understand quite a bit about people, I think, because I have thought a lot about how upbringings affect people, If I didn't have that, I don't think I would understand people nearly as much, but, I do understand those things. If I talk to someone enough, I will understand them. It's just that a lot of the aspects of understanding people, a lot of the aspects of how to carry yourself in social cues and stuff, I had to learn by reading and analyzing what other people were doing, just because I was never told as a kid and it wasn't obvious to me. I don't know if I have autism, or if I'm, just responding to not being taken care of as a kid and not talking to many people. Because I think one of my other problems was that I was often rewarded for going to my room. Like, my parents didn't want to talk to me so much when I was a kid that either I'd just get punished for being around them, literally punished, or I would get rewarded for staying in my room alone. And so they would, with the little bit of money they had, which they really should have been spending on food or expenses or something else, but they would buy me toys and buy me other things. I rarely got new video games. I would often have to just wait until my birthday until I had money for those, or to try and save change that I just found around the house. I remember when I bought my Nintendo 64, I bought it entirely in coins. $60 worth of coins that I had just been collecting around the house, and $10 I had left from my birthday money or Christmas money at the time that I almost spent on coffee, but the woman wouldn't sell me coffee because she thought I was too young. But yeah, I had often saved up a lot of money as a kid because they rarely ever had any money to spend on me. But when they did, they would always try to use it to coach me into my room, to make me stay in my room alone, because they didn't want me around them. And then they had to turn around and wonder why I was so anxious to go to school, why I was having so many social problems with the other kids. 'Cause you didn't fucking teach me. They're sitting here acting like, well, why aren't you just working with these other kids? You never fucking told me. And so, yeah, I'm pretty passionate about this topic. I was never told as a kid, so I just didn't know how these things worked. I was actually actively rewarded for being a fucking hikikomori. So it is an interesting transfer of events. Even with all these problems, I still think I'm kind of an extrovert. I really like being around people that I'm comfortable with, and I would say that I gain energy from being around people that I'm comfortable with. I always hear introverts saying, oh yeah, I love my friends, but I get tired around them. I don't ever get tired around my friends. If it's someone I'm truly comfortable with, like the Chromasticators, some of which I feel like I can just say anything to. Well, I mean, I don't feel like I can say anything to anybody, but in moderation, yes. I feel like I can be completely myself around them, and so, I never get tired being around them. The same with, Spacey or Erito. These are people that I'm very happy to be around, and I don't get tired when I'm around them. I get more excited as I go. I gain energy off of talking to those people. So, it's something that I really, really like doing, and I always hear introverts say, ooh, talking to my friends is great, but I get tired. I never feel that way. I do not relate to that feeling whatsoever. But when I talk to new people, like I was in the grocery store yesterday, I had this moment where I was talking to this military guy. He was kind of cute, by the way. He wasn't a bad-looking man, but I was talking to this guy, and had to say, "Oh, is that order yours?" I didn't make any eye contact whatsoever. I was just kind of smiling because I was trying not to seem awkward, but I wasn't looking at him at all. I was more so looking at the woman who was serving, which was away. But the man was right beside me, right? And I was saying, "Ooh, was that yours? Was that your order?" And he said no, and then I kind of froze up for a second, then I said, "Oh, yeah, you know, I just wanted to know if we had the same order." Which is a very bad wording of things. That is a terrible wording of things. It makes it sound like I'm curious about him, which is weird, because I wasn't, and two, that would be weird to do with someone in the store. And so, what I should have said was something to the effect of, "Oh, I just didn't want to grab your food." I could have just said that. That is easy. That is an easy thing to say. But because I was so nervous at the time, and because I was so overwrought with fear and with anxiety, and my heart was going fast, I didn't say the right thing. This happened to me so many times. This happened to me so many times of just saying the wrong thing because I didn't think about it, because I was so nervous at the time. Whereas when I'm with someone I'm comfortable with, I'll usually say, like, decently the correct wording. Erito always tells me, "Oh, Outlaw, it sounds like you plan everything you say. It sounds like you think about it beforehand." Yeah, I think about a lot of the stuff that I say, but most of it is very unscripted and very, unplanned. So, it's not as if I'm just combing over every word in our conversations, Erito. So, with this person, it wasn't much different, you know. I didn't have a plan coming in or anything. I didn't think about it much. I mean, now that I think about it, I did kind of think about it beforehand because I knew I was going to have to approach that person when she finished the thing. But it wasn't like an insane level of thinking. I didn't script out everything. I probably should have. Yeah, in any other circumstance where I wasn't nervous, I would have said the right thing. But in this one, I didn't say the right thing, and it really upset me that I just kind of sounded weird. I mean, I'm never gonna meet that person again. This is how I've justified a lot of these events over time, because this has happened many, many times in my life, and it's upset me many, many times in my life, where I will mess up like this, I'll make a mistake like this, and the way I tend to justify it to myself is I will never meet that person again. My interaction with them is inconsequential in their life. It's negligible. Who cares? And I try to keep that mindset about things just because it will damage me, dude. It will fucking kill me inside to keep thinking about that. You know, when I got home last night, I had to sit there and listen to podcasts and just play Black Ops because I was so overwrought with emotions over me messing up in that supermarket with some random fucking asshole. And so it bothers me. It really does. I'm trying to do less of that, but it's very hard. I just had to escape into video games because I just couldn't stop thinking about it. I mean, right now, it's bothering me less because I've talked about it. Ugh. But at the time, it was really bothering me, man. I'm kind of over it now, but it's not as bad as some things that I think about. It's not as bad as some things that bother me. Incidentally, I had made 2 new videos yesterday. I wrote them all fairly fast. I mean, I wrote them. I didn't even edit them at all, like except some minor grammar mistakes. I just threw them out as is because most of my posts are written very, very fast. Wrote 2 new videos, and when I woke up this morning, my heart was racing. Like it was fucking beating out of my chest, dude. And it was a bad scene. It wasn't quite peak performance, if I do say so myself. So I was very, very nervous, and I was just thinking, oh god, these 2 videos are terrible. What did I do? How could I have done this on my channel? This is gonna ruin my reputation. As I was making them, I just had the thought in my head, okay, the main channel is not prestige. This is a changing point in my channel. I'm making more content on here. It doesn't matter. And the videos weren't even that bad, it's just they were different format. They were kind of short little things that weren't that good, but they weren't bad either. They were just like vlog ideas I would do. Normally those would have been vlogs, I just wrote them. I looked at the like bars on them, and I looked at the comments, and that totally reassured me, because no one was on the comments saying the video was shit, and I got plenty of likes on them, and that just made me feel so much better that I got those likes on there, because if someone was saying the video was shit or something like that, I would have just started doubting myself even more, because I was really, really ashamed and nervous of those videos, even though, like, they aren't bad videos or anything, you know? There's nothing that wrong with them. They aren't necessarily, like, good, but the point of them isn't to be good, it's to... I mean, yes, the point is to be good, in a sense, but, like, the type of good that it is inconsequential to a lot of things. It's more so just one look at a character. It's a continuation in the arc of a person. That's the point there. And I do feel like they are important to understanding me to some extent, you know. The video games one where I say, oh, I like hard games this much because I have these problems. I think that's very important to understanding my stance on a lot of video games. I could have probably, just because that point is so important, I could have probably added a little bit of personality to that. I mean, the video literally starts out with, sometimes I just want to get fucking raped or something like that, which is a hilarious line. I really liked that I put that line in there. But other than that, like, there's not a lot of personability to it, despite it being a pretty personal video. Like, I could have, in my recently Drunken Ninja 98 videos, like, there's a level of personalness to it, right? Because I was upset about Drunken Ninja, and I would, like, the opening paragraph would kind of, not necessarily summarize those events, but it would give you the emotions of those events, right? I wonder if I can find that, but, like, let's see, value in imperfect games. Like, I start out the video where I say, I was recently in an argument with my friend, Drunken Ninja. It was over the classic game that kickstarted an industry, Pong. He argued that the game was boring and that he'd only play it for a few minutes until, moving on to the next thing. As the Pong lifer that I am, I quickly interjected with a slew of incomprehensible garbage and the point that I've played it for hours on end, stifled and bamboozled by my apparent insanity. Okay, you see where I'm getting at here. There's a character. There's a character to the points that I'm making. You know, stifled and bamboozled by my apparent insanity. I have these weird lines like this that just sound kind of strange, but it adds character to the writing. And because that video wasn't necessarily funny, like, there is a funny line in it, but it's not very funny of a video. Like, the Pong video, by its very nature, is funny. Like, it's funny to do something this autistic because you got into a debate with your friend. And that's why that video has charm. And I put that in the writing, you know? But, like, this video, because it's so personal, I have to take a personal edge to the writing. I have to have a flowery presence in how I present things. And I didn't really do that. I kind of just said my points and said that they were because of this traumatic thing in my life, but I didn't really emphasize the emotions behind it. The Pong video emphasizes the emotions behind it in a lot of different ways. I need to learn how to do that for more projects, and not just when I feel really, really inspired. Because that one, I think the problem with emphasizing emotions on that one is just that, like, it's kind of a short point. Like, there's not a lot to say about it, but I think if I tried hard enough, I could find some way to describe it in a more flowery fashion. I have other videos that I need to write soon, that I have ideas for, so I could experiment more with just trying to make my writing more proficient, you know? But this is another thing about why those videos needed to be made, is that I learned something from them. the more things you write, the more things you learn. Even on ones where it doesn't necessarily seem like that, like in those cases, I've made better videos than those, but there were things that I needed to learn from making them in order to continue making those better videos, you know what I mean? If your output is, sometimes I make a great video and then I make all the bad ones, but you avoid making the bad ones, you can't learn anything from those bad ones, right? You end up just sometimes making a great video instead of always making a great video. I need to learn how to always be making a great video. And, you know, keeping on, and continue doing it, those things give you things to learn. You can't learn anything if you don't try, so I need to keep on trying. And I think that sort of sums up the entire value in the prolific over perfect mindset, because you're becoming prolific to be perfect all the time, you know? Where that is a criticism that can be levied against Digi is just the idea that he was putting out a lot of manga Mondays and shit at the time, and it was kind of changing his image, but I love all those videos, you know. His vlogs, I think, are 10 out of 10s to me, but I mean, that's just my personal taste. But not to get on a tangent about Digi here. Yeah, basically, oh my god, I've been going 21 minutes just kind of rambling like a madman. I think I should probably address the elephant in the room here for all of the crows listening to this, or anyone who just follows my Twitter. So, I am on a hashtag Discord hiatus. Now, I've tried to do several other ones of these, and they've all failed. I got through like 1 or 2 days, and then I stopped, because I couldn't resist the temptation of just going on Discord again. And with this hiatus, I specifically just had the idea when I woke up one morning to give Foggy my password, and to change my password to something completely esoteric, and then just give it to him so he will hold it over me until June. That way I won't be able to log in whatsoever. I mean, I could just send myself an email, but I'm too lazy to do that, and I would feel too much guilt and feel too much ashamed, because I'm writing a lot on this. I'm, you know, to some extent, like, my entire, not self-worth, what's the word when you're trying to do a goal and you want to keep being motivated afterwards, like to use your goal as motivation after you finish it? Anyway, yeah, I'm writing a lot on this, basically. And if I just broke down and failed, I would be a little bitch, you know? I'm not gonna sit here and be a little bitch. I'm not, unusual caterpillar. Larva's a good boy, he does try. I'm not, you know, I'm not just gonna break down and break my convictions and compromise. I am going to continue with what I started, and so I can't be tempted by Discord. I need to have this hiatus to finish my work, and to also just prove to myself that I can do like a long-term goal like that for other long-term goals in the future, for their health and for their benefit. So this is something that means a lot to me in that regard. As to what actually facilitated it, it's been a mixture of several things. One of which, as I said earlier, is just the guilt of, like, not getting things done and wanting to get more things done, and also going into that inhuman state of really working on a goal and just doing that goal and being alone with that goal without any other distractions. That was one of the big factors that really pushed me over the edge. But at first, like, I was just kind of in a nihilistic, like, sad mindset of, oh god, I'm embarrassing myself in front of all of my friends, and I sound like an autist and an idiot all the time. Which is, I mean, that's a feeling I can't really run away from. I know everyone loves me in the Crows, at least to some extent. I know there's not a problem there, it's just that, like, I was really, really upset at the time, because I felt like I was being annoying or something, specifically because there was, an individual in there who was like, Outlaw, stop making this dumb joke, stop, saying this fucking Warhammer 40k is Fallout, guys. But I mean, I knew, like, they weren't actually that mad at me, but, like, I just got really upset at the time, specifically, like, from the tone they were using, because, I don't really deal well with people yelling at me, because I kind of have some traumatic baggage with that. I have some very, very traumatic experiences with that. And so it's hard for me to deal with stuff like that when, a close friend were to do something like that. So, I know they didn't mean anything by it. Like, logically I can discern, okay, yeah, nothing was meant by this, but it just really, really upset me at the time. And I kind of, like, spent the rest of the night after the call was over just kind of thinking about my own inadequacies and feeling, like, really upset with myself. I mean, to an extent, yeah, I am, like, an autist and bad with a lot of things, and I should change that, but, like, I shouldn't have gotten as upset about it as I did. It's just, it's hard to explain these types of emotional impulses, because I know them to be wrong logically in a lot of cases. It's just that I need to let them ride out and kind of let them finish until I can discern how they're exactly dumb and bad when I no longer feel that way, but logic kind of gets thrown out the window at the time. It's hard to logic yourself out of situations like that. But, I don't know. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't. It just depends on how intense the anxiety and the upset of you is. But, I mean, I guess that event was good, because I turned it into a good thing by having this hiatus to work harder. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, I know they didn't mean anything by it. It was just that it kind of reminded me of some other things that I got really upset about it. And so, I woke up the next morning and I was like, fuck it. Who cares? Who needs these motherfuckers? I'm the 10 out of 10 man. I'm the greatest person who's ever lived. I did not think that, but yeah, I did start thinking, like, I kind of just need some time alone. Clearly this has been stressing me out. Clearly this has been bothering me to a certain extent, So I need to go off and into my own little world and just kind of be alone for a while, because, like, even with my friends, like, people are stressful to be around, because I don't want to mess up in some way. I don't want to, I don't want to make myself look bad. I don't want to upset somebody. It's very, very stressful for me, and I don't need that every goddamn day of my life to be anxious and stress out over doing the right thing socially. Sometimes I just want to spend all my time alone watching anime and playing video games and writing and all these other things, So that's kind of where I'm at currently. It's just, that event pushed me over the edge there. But, I mean, I'm always just kind of anxious anyway. Anxiety and kind of bad events going on in my life currently as well colored the picture, because, man, sometimes you just don't want to be around people when you're sad, and I've been pretty sad lately. It's been kind of bothering me, so, it's something I've just been kind of grappling with. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think it's hard exactly to put in what the Discord hiatus means to me entirely in words, but it's an amalgam of emotions, but I think it's ultimately a good thing that I'm on this hiatus, because I can just focus more on myself and focus more on improving my work. Like, I was listening to Day and Weeb's podcast, and there was just a little bitty part where Day was talking about CRTs, and it blew my fucking mind. It made me change my entire perception on analysis itself, because I started thinking, oh wait, these things are actually pretty simple to explain. And it changed, like, my entire way of doing things. It fixed a long-term problem that I've had forever. You know, that problem is gone now, because I just spent the time to listen to a video and to think about it, which Digi always brought this up in his, either his Patreon podcasts or one of the other ones, where he would say, the thing about being an analysis guy is you have to waste a lot of time. You have to be able to spend a lot of time taking in media and thinking about media, which is a gigantic time dump. And if I were in the Crows that night, I might have had an idea for like a shitpost or something, but I wouldn't have changed my entire perception of analysis, you know, because I didn't listen to that podcast if I were in the Crows. So, because I was spending time to take in other media, to get inspired, to change ideas about myself by thinking about how other people do things, I was getting better. And in order to be an analyst, you kind of have to spend a lot of time alone. You have to take in a lot of media and to just spend time laying around thinking about things, you know? And sometimes friends can get in the way of that. And if I'm going to spend these next couple months getting better at doing those skills, then I kind of need to cut those things out.